Okay, so you may have to stick with me here because I've been reading into this story a little bit, and I do think that there actually is. I think that there's maybe some more to this story potentially than maybe even the headlines are reading. So I read a headline that Starstock, many of you may remember, I did some advertising with Starstock actually when they were first getting started. They sold to Brandon Steiner's Collectible Exchange, so which I believe is called. Sorry, I had it up here 2 seconds ago. I think it's. Oh, sorry, I had it literally 2 seconds ago. It is collectibleexchange.com, collectible with exchange.com. So there's a couple different layers to this story that I've been doing. When I was looking into it because the name sounded familiar. I think I've heard this name before. Okay, so Brandon Steiner had a memorabilia company in the 90s, and I guess, well, he sold it to Omni Channel or Omnicon. I'm learning these names kind of for the first time here. He sold the company back in 2000 to, Omnicon for $25 million, which in the sale, like I said, I'm looking this stuff up. In the sale, he sold the company and the intellectual property of his memorabilia agency. Now, Brandon Steiner, after doing a little bit of research on him, he is kind of like a sports marketing agent guy. He had this company, sold it for $25 million, kind of got into the sports memorabilia agency. And then actually not this past year, back in 2019, it seemed like the Omnicon basically sold the company, sold all of the memorabilia and the intellectual property, actually to, interestingly enough, Fanatics. Now, what does that mean? I don't really know. I mean, I think, again, maybe it's just another move where Fanatics is buying memorabilia from the company. I mean, I don't know what they paid for the company necessarily, but yeah, so Brandon Steiner didn't have any control over the company. So when Omnicon wanted to sell to Fanatics back in 2019, there was nothing he could do about that, and he wasn't really in the loop on this deal. So like he was the story goes that he was actually at a Yankee Red Sox game, and somebody called him, and he tried showing up at the warehouse where all of the company's memorabilia, his memorabilia that was under his name, but the company's memorabilia, and like there were armed guards and they wouldn't let him in. So he basically was like kind of caught off guard. So he has like an auction house basically now. So Brandon Snyder, or let me make sure I'm pronouncing his name correctly here. Steiner, sorry, I think I meant to saying Snyder. Brandon Steiner. Sorry, this is like I said, I'm learning about this guy and the story kind of as we're doing the podcast here still a little bit. So if I had been pronouncing his name wrong, just know that if you're listening to this point of the podcast, I have corrected it. Steiner, not whatever I've been pronouncing it. So he launches the new card exchange, and some of the other things. He kind of started this sort of during the pandemic, and during the pandemic, he actually put out a pretty interesting article that when I searched, he put out a Yahoo Sports article. Like, he was a guest writer, and the headline reads, "Buyer beware, the latest card collecting craze is a risky business." And again, I'm still in a scenario where I suppose you can look at a lot of the skeptics back in like the pandemic era of sports cards that were really just skeptics. I don't know. I mean, I guess they were right. Like I said, I think back then, honestly, like there were people that were preying on the downfall of sports cards forever. So like the amount of people that were saying that sports cards were going to go down, say that the industry was going to fail, all these types of things. Those people had been saying that for forever, so it's not, yeah, sure, they got it right, sort of, they got it right this time, but the fact that they had just been, let's just put it this way, like if you're betting on roulette, and you bet on red every single time, no matter what, you bet on red, eventually red is going to hit. And I don't know if that's necessarily a good comparison, but it's like if you're playing roulette and you're betting a number every single time, you bet a number every single time, eventually that number is going to hit and you will win, you will win the bet, I suppose. But in this scenario, it's people that were just continuously saying sports cards were going to go down, sports cards were going to fail, all these types of things. Sure, maybe they were right, but it's like these types of people that were saying that were also, they had just been saying that for forever. So it's not like this isn't, a clock is right twice a day. Something along those lines. I'm going to stop using comparisons or try to come up with analogies here. But back to, I guess that's sort of the kind of the backstory of Brandon Steiner. Brandon Steiner got it right this time. But now StarStock, I guess I was reading on Sports Collectors Daily, and they were saying that StarStock has like $1.3 million worth of cards in their inventory. Now, if 100%, well, I guess if the business is selling, I'm sure it's probably 100% of the business. I would definitely think that they probably have more than $1.3 million worth of customer data than the inventory. Like, that's more probably what they're trying to buy here. Like, because, I've worked in the marketing industry. I've seen how much, even here, like you're listening to this podcast, it's a marketing vehicle for Hobbynewsdaily and getting emails and all these types of things. And, the business of media and the business of all these things, it can be hard to get emails. It can be hard to get all this customer information. So like StarStock, they spent, I think they raised like $10 million when they first came out. Maybe I don't know how much money they spent on getting people to sign up for the website. Like, I don't know if maybe they spent $9 million or $8 million, but whatever. So I guess they have one. So so you would also presume that they sold for more than probably a couple $1 million, if I had to guess. We also saw another company, HGA, the grading company. That that grading company sold like a couple weeks ago. So we're kind of seeing some of these like pandemic era card companies and like industry companies. Like, I don't know if they're making a resurgence or if like actually these companies are just trying to buy customer. The people that are buying these companies are actually just trying to buy customer data because, like I said, customer data is hard to come by, and if I would imagine, like I said, that StarStock probably has more, if you were to value the customer data. I don't know how many customers they have, and I don't know how much data they really do have, but I would say if they have $1.3 million worth of inventory, that probably means that they have more than $1.3 million worth of customer data of emails, phone numbers, and unfortunately in this day and age of sports cards, you have probably which I think eBay did get in trouble for this, but you have the like trading inventory of these customers. Like, I would have to look into it. I'm not sure if there's laws against marketing towards those customers that with their inventory data. Like, I don't know I feel like there was a controversy a year or two ago where eBay got in trouble for targeting ads towards people's eBay search history. So maybe it was search history, and maybe the search history and the inventory data of like buying and selling, maybe that's a little bit different. But like I said, realistically, I would say that they're probably buying this company for the data. Like, will we see StarStock ever make a resurgence? I don't know, potentially, like, or maybe they're trying to get the technology, because I think from an app perspective, from a back-end UX, UI design perspective, StarStock was pretty good. I think that they had a pretty good platform. So maybe this is something where there are a couple different elements of things that this company is probably trying to buy for StarStock. And I think actually the $1.3 million worth of sports cards is probably like third on the list if we're counting customer data, back-end UI, UX design, and then the sports cards. Like, or maybe you could use the sports cards and the UI UX maybe could fluctuate there. But I think that those are, if I had to guess, those are probably the reasons why that company is buying StarStock now, which kind of out of nowhere. I mean, they did, unfortunately, they sort of shifted their business model, and it didn't really work out, I guess, because, they laid off a bunch of employees back in, like, early 2022, and they've been pretty much silent since then. Like, we really haven't seen them do anything. And I don't know if this was something where they were trying to do this the whole time. They were trying to sell the company eventually, and it was just like sort of a losing asset. Like, it was an asset that was kind of losing what's the term I'm looking for? It was losing equity. I don't know. Maybe it was losing equity daily, monthly, yearly, whatever. But Star stock has been bought. We'll see if it comes back. I'm not really sure. I do think that they probably bought it for a lot of the other things. But if they do bring it back, I mean, it's another marketplace for, buying and selling raw cards, which I do think is a big deal within this industry. I think it's actually probably even more of a bigger deal than some of the bigger auction houses, because like the buying and selling of these raw cards are more likely being like what regular people would come in and do. So like, ComC, StarStock, eBay. I think these types of companies are important for the sports card industry if they can figure out a way to come in and really cater towards a more casual audience and really get people buying and selling on their platform. If they're looking to buy and sell, sort of like StarStock and ComC, for example, if they're looking to buy and sell without getting the cards, just basically trading the cards online. One of my favorite products that I don't think actually has released since the podcast has started, so there's probably a decent chance that I haven't talked about it, to be honest, is Topps Heritage. Heritage High Number, I guess, maybe even more specifically, because I like the fact that, or I guess just Heritage in general, I like the product. I mean, maybe it's like a nostalgia factor is why I like it so much. Maybe it's like, it gives, obviously, because it uses that throwback design, it gives maybe like collectors of vintage a reason to sort of try and maybe collect some of the more new modern stuff. I think that's a good reason to really like this product. I do also love the short prints, the action short prints specifically. I think that, or not, I think I've said specifically a couple times, but the action short prints I do really like. I like the concept of a base card and then a short print. And, you can really tell the difference, because with most of the Heritage cards, at least how they've done it over the past few years, they'll do like sort of like a pretty basic image, and then the action shot will be sort of like them in the field or them running the bases. It's pretty obvious. You can tell the difference. Also, the thing that Heritage, I think, does phenomenally well is they are super clear on if a card is a short print or some sort of variation. Like on the back of the card, around the card number, they usually include some sort of tag, like if it's a variation or, whatever insert they're including there. It is included on the back next to the number. So I like how they lay it out pretty easily. I think one thing that Topps has done over the past year is they've changed sort of the short print, the signifier, I think that's maybe the word I'm looking for, the signifier of the short print for some of the flagship product. They did put SP or SSP on the back of the card, making it a lot more obvious. I mean, it'd be in the past with those flagship products, the only way you could tell it was a short print is if you looked at the small numbers that were the small serial numbers on the back of the card. I think that there was like a certain code, either that the serial number started with or ended with, I forget which order it was, but that meant that the card was a short print, but you had to know like what to look for. Like you had to know that the number basically was the big difference between the two. And like I said, I think in the flagship, they have changed that to some of the cards do have that short print. Basically, I think it's a stamp on the back of the card, I'm pretty sure. Now, I have talked about short prints and all these kinds of things and being like, I wish that they were numbered. But I think with Heritage, I'm okay with them not being numbered because there really isn't like with flagship, I feel like there's a bunch of different types of short prints. With Heritage, I feel like it's pretty obvious what they're, the action shot versus the regular one. And I think the other thing that I do like with Heritage that I don't know if they'll ever do with flagship, I would guess they probably won't, because flagship is such like a money-making product for Topps, is I like that there's only 2 releases. I know that the fact that they won't do that with Bowman, because, or at least with Bowman Chrome, because Bowman Chrome is typically like a rookie release for that year, which actually, another product that I think is actually kind of underrated, honestly, is the Bowman Chrome rookie. That's something that I've talked about, like, way, way back, like, honestly, like, the Bowman Chrome and the Bowman Chrome, like, Superfractor rookies and autographs and all those kinds of things. I think those Bowman Chrome rookie cards, I think are pretty underrated because it's like you're really only getting the rookie cards in a single release, like in that Bowman Chrome release. Like I think there are a couple rookies in like draft and then in Bowman baseball at the beginning of the year, but for the most part, you're really only going to see rookies in one product. Like you're not going to see a rookie in multiple different products. And I know they do that with some of the flagship, but they do include like some of the rookies that were in Series 1 in flagship Topps update occasionally. I think that they've steered away from it in the past couple of years, but I have seen in the past, before these past couple of years, that they did include multiple rookies within that product, which I don't really like that. But so, like I said, with Heritage, those are some of the big things that I like about that product and why I think it's actually sort of an underrated product. And I mean, honestly, it might even just be a thing where like that was one of the first products when I was getting back into sports cards that product had first come out. So it's maybe I have a soft spot for Heritage in my in my sports card heart potentially, because like I said, it's one of the first products that came out when I was first getting back into cards. I mean, Topps Fire is another example of that probably. I mean, Tyson Beck, I've talked about this. Tyson Beck is my favorite sports designer, and he made that Topps Fire product, which was a Target exclusive. So, that could also be another reason. But I think with Heritage, I like that they, and it's a way that they keep kind of the checklist going too with the Heritage high number. And it's a good way for them to kind of give a little bit of a callback to some of the vintage collectors, but also get them to collect some of the newer players that are rookies from this past year. So we are pretty close to the end of the MLS season. And when I say MLS, I'm assuming you probably know that I'm talking about Messi. And when you heard me say first American sports card, obviously Messi's had other cards, but this is his first season in the MLS. Kind of came in halfway-ish through the season. Miami, I don't know. They didn't really make it too far. We are close to the finals, the MLS finals as well, which I've always debated, not really debated, yeah, I guess so, on this show, when sports card releases should happen. And with one product release like this, I suppose you can do the end of the season with the MLS final, with like baseball with 3 product releases, and with the way that baseball works with players coming up and down throughout the majors and minors, you have to do it a little bit differently. But I just feel like there has to be a way for Fanatics and Topps. And I actually think that the fact that they're doing this with the MLS makes me think that they're using the same thought process that I'm using, that they should be switching the release schedule of these products a little bit to cater more towards the fact that like the championship is going on. Like with Bowman or with Flagship, you can't, for baseball at least, I guess you can't really come out with those products around the time of the championship of that sport, because the first product release, you don't want to run into an issue like we did with the NBA and even with the NHL recently, actually, where there are products that are being released that are like, it's the next year, like NBA and NFL. Like there were last year's products being released when the new season was, for basketball, I think specifically, there was some last year's products that like they're overlapping the schedule a little bit, and obviously the overlapping towards the end of the basketball, or towards the end of the basketball release schedule. Most of the time, you're seeing some of the big products. You're seeing not just like some of the base level products. You're seeing a lot of the like the high level RPAs, the high level like really expensive boxed rookie cards. That's what you're seeing from some of the overlap with some of the newer, college products. We obviously saw the release of Hoops, which, I think they did an early release this year for Hoops, which I think is really great. I don't know. I just wish that there was, and I'm hoping that there will be. I wish there was more strategy when it came around to when products were being released. I think like Prism, although yes, it probably is the biggest product, they should be releasing that probably around whenever the championships are. Because at that point, too, you have the opportunity to, everyone's going to get a Prism. Like, with this product, like, everyone's going to get their first Prism card. Like, you don't have to worry about, like, having it earlier on in the season, and then, a player kind of comes out of nowhere and has this crazy rookie year, or, like, comes in and, like, has a crazy second half of their rookie season but for whatever reason, like, they just weren't on the radar or whatever. I don't know. They could have been a second-round pick, or they started the season in the G League or something along those lines, and that's why they didn't, that's why they weren't in the, they weren't, I'm going to call them the big leagues. They weren't in, like, the pro leagues at the beginning of the season, which, again, doesn't happen too often in football or basketball. But I just feel like these, or it's like maybe National Treasures needs to come out around those times too. Like, I just feel like there has to be there needs to be more of a thought process behind when these products are coming out. And I think we have started to see sort of a little bit of that. Like, I do think with hoops, obviously you're not going to get whoever down the road, if they're going to get their first hoop, they may never have a hoops card, but it's like, at the same time, it's like Hoops is good for the rookies that were big rookies coming into the season. They get their first hoops card. It's the first card within a pack, within their with their new jerseys on. It's great. But it's not like the go-to in most cases. I think it maybe should be, to be honest. Like, I think it should probably be, if you're looking at like a paper rookie, it should probably be one of the better or more desirable paper rookies, realistically, in my opinion. But with Messi also, I think that they probably pushed this back. If I had to guess, they probably pushed this product back a little bit, because Messi is card 201 on the checklist, and he also has a cool card. It's like a goat variation. I don't know exactly what that's going to mean for the cards, but I think it is pretty cool that, like, Messi is going to have, or I think they pushed this product back so that way they could put Messi in the product, if I had to guess. Just also looking at, like, it's the flagship product, and I don't think Topps Chrome MLS has come out yet. But, like, this is, like, the flagship product for the year. And obviously, like I said, it's tricky. It's tricky when it's, like, you have the one product. And with MLS, there aren't as many products, so it's like you can kind of maneuver the release schedule a little bit differently than you could with, like, baseball. Obviously, right now, baseball is Topps' biggest sport. And I think that they should look at the way that MLS is doing their releases, and they should, once they get those other licenses, once they really start making the football and basketball products, I do think that they probably need to start coming out with some of these cards or some of these products around the championship time. So if it's like Bowman during the NCAA tournament, that's when Bowman basketball should be coming out. Like, it should not even be a question. That's easy, like, super easy. Again, it's a flagship product. It's not contingent on anything, really, to be honest, because it's like a new product. It's a new thing. Same with Bowman football probably should come out, like, during bowl season, like, maybe in the middle of bowl season. I think that they came out with it in the middle of the season this year, which, they probably lucked out a little bit, if I'm going to be completely honest, with, like, putting those, like, Shedeur Sanders and the Travis Hunter cards into this year's Bowman football, because, like, Colorado has been there. It's really actually kind of shocking, if I'm being honest, and I'm surprised that I haven't seen more articles written about this Colorado team. Like, they could be potentially the most disappointing team in all of college football history. Like, the amount of hype that they had coming into the season, and the fact that they are, like, bad. Like, they're not like a 2 or 3 loss team. Like, I think they lost every game in November. Like, they lost every game this month. So it's like the amount of hype that they had coming into the season, and I think Topps definitely struck while the iron was hot for some of those Colorado players. You also had, like, the Marvin Harrison Jr. card in there. I'm sure there's other players that have kind of made a little bit of a resurgence. And it almost, I don't know, it's like, will this mean that they're going to come out with another Bowman product for football? But like I said, either way, I think for, like, basketball, the NCAA tournament is when they need to come out with Bowman basketball. They need to come out with and it's tough too, because it's like, you never know who the underrated stars of Bowman, of the NCAA tournament are going to be. Like, because one of the special things about the NCAA tournament is, like, not every year the top team, like, it's almost actually never, it's really very rare that the top team ends up going all the way and the best players play the best throughout the tournament. It's very random. It's a single elimination. It's why it's so exciting. So it's like, I guess, I don't know. Maybe it's like you come out with Bowman at the end of the NCAA tournament, or at the beginning. Maybe you come out with it leading up to the NCAA tournament. And then, because this is the other thing with that NCAA tournament, I think that they need to figure out a way to incorporate more teams. Like, I don't know exactly what they should do with the program there, but, like, there's just got to be a way that they can include teams of players that, like, weren't really in Bowman, so but they want these cards. They got to strike while the iron is hot. Like, I don't know if there's a way to produce cards of if a 15 or a 14, like, if a team that's like a low rank can make it to the second round or the second weekend, like, is there a way to get cards of those players in collectors' hands before the second weekend starts? Probably not, realistically, because if if it's a Saturday or Sunday, sure, maybe they could have all the cards produced or ready to produce, and then they could ship them out when they're ordered. But it's like, you're not going to charge extra for shipping, and that's really the only way you could get them there for that second or third round of the tournament. But it's almost like they should have Tops Now sets or full team sets. I feel like would be very smart, and they could do it Tops Now. They could just do it in a Tops Now set where they release these cards. They do them per order, so they come out with all the cards of all the players on the teams, but then they do them per order. But sorry, I'm going a little bit long on this episode, but I always like to see innovation. I always like to see these things changing, and this is the fact that they're coming out with this MLS product, basically going to be in the same time frame of when the championship is. It really just gets my brainstorming juices flowing a little bit, and it's always this is sort of one of the things I like about sports cards. I like kind of pontificating on what could be and what they could do, because I just feel like the possibilities are endless. And with Fanatics taking over kind of the industry, I hope that we don't just see the status quo. I hope that they do step up and they do make changes for the industry that's going to make it better for collectors, and it's going to make it better for people who are trying to market these cards when the actual sports are the most popular during that season. So we are a few weeks into the release of Topps Chrome update, or Topps Chrome baseball update. I'm not sure the order, but we're a few weeks into the release of the product, and obviously the big card that's supposed to be coming out of that product is the debut patch, the rookie debut patch autograph, the 1/1, the big card that kind of everybody has been looking for this past year, or anticipating this past year, not looking for, but anticipating. And so one person I think has been doing a pretty good job is Collectibles Guru Eric Whiteback on Twitter. He's been doing a pretty good job. I'm trying to go on Twitter a little bit less, but he is part of, a group of accounts that I do follow, that I like to follow for sports card stuff. And he's been doing a pretty good job at tracking all of the polls from this, the polls from the 1/1, the rookie patch autographs from this product. And he put out a post the other day that said only 14% of the 1/1, the biggest card of the year, let's just call it that. Only 14% of what the biggest card of basically the year is, what has become, I almost think it's become, for baseball, it's become almost like the 1/1 National Treasures card. It's basically become that card for Topps, in a way, in my opinion, I think. Now, and then I guess he kind of raised the question, has only 14% of the product been opened? Like, I guess this is sort of the interesting thing that he's been talking, or not even really talking about it, but he kind of brought up this point. It has only 14% of the players that are on the checklist of this one of one card have been pulled. And also, granted, that's I almost would say, like, you could look at it and say, well, maybe 10 to 15%, you could give a little bit of leeway here. 10 to 15%, let's say, don't have social media. So let's just say, like, 2 to 3 of the 91 players that are on this checklist have been pulled, maybe, that we don't know of. But it almost feels like it's exposing Topps in a way, because also the big thing that I took away from this is, like, no Anthony Volpe so far, no Jordan Walker so far, no the Japanese player for the Red Sox, Yoshida, I believe his name, and granted, I forget how to pronounce his name, and I'm not even going to try if I pronounce it incorrectly, but the Japanese player on the Red Sox, there's no, like, any of these big rookies that, it feels like, at least, this is, like I said, it could be that these cards have been pulled, and, I just haven't seen them. But, like I said, the tracking on these cards, a lot of them are being pulled by people and they're being posted online. So if we're going to say only 14% of the checklist have been pulled, like, has only 14% of this product been pulled so far? Like, this product has been out for, like, what, I guess it would be probably a couple, at least 1 or 2 months now. So what is sort of the consensus here with, like, what Topps is doing with the product? Like, do they have these cards in product that still has not been distributed? Like, is only 14% of the product been distributed? Is that what's going on here? Like, I guess you could look at it. No, I mean, I'm not sure. Like, the cards are in all of the different configurations of the product. So it's not like you could say, oh, well, you're going to find these cards in a certain configuration that really hasn't been released yet. It's in Breaker's Delight. It's in hobby boxes. It's in blasters. It's in retail boxes. It's in all of the configurations of this product. So the fact that only 14% after a couple months have been released, like, is, I guess, a little bit shocking. I mean, I don't necessarily know. I mean, I guess I don't know if I expected that the big players were going to be pulled right away, but it does feel like with other products, the big players, like the one-of-ones, the big cards get pulled pretty quickly. So, like, and it is a little bit of speculation. I don't know if you could call it a conspiracy or whatever, I guess. I mean, I don't know if you can consider this a conspiracy or a speculation, but it really just feels, it feels like it's different. Like, the card itself, like, it feels like there have been no big name pulls for this product. Like I said, this is a feel thing. So granted, someone who loves any of the players that have been pulled, obviously that's going to be their biggest player. But if you are a fan of sports cards and you're a fan of these rookies this past year, the Anthony Volpe and the Jordan Walker, those are probably the two of the bigger ones. Now, there are going to be other names that are going to be important from this product as well. But, like, why have we not seen these cards? I guess is my question. Like, where are these cards? Have they been distributed? Have they, are they going to, like, does Topps still have the cards? Like, do they still have the packs with the cards? Like, that's kind of my question is, like, what is it feels very strange that, like, none of these big cards have been pulled. Like, the distribution schedule feels very strange to me. Like, how often is it that, like, you see, and I guess it is, like, I guess you could look at it and say, well, it is, like, sort of like the biggest card in a product that, like, has some of the biggest amount of distribution. So you could look at it that way and say, well, yeah, I mean, obviously the cards haven't been pulled yet. You're only looking at a small percentage of product that's been open. But is it only 14% of the product that's been open? Like, that's maybe my question. It's like I said, how many times have we seen a product come out and the biggest card, or one of the biggest cards, like maybe not even the biggest card, like one of the biggest cards gets pulled on day 1 or day 2 or within the first week or within the first couple weeks. I don't know. It's very strange. I'm not here to say that there's a conspiracy here. I don't think there is. I think it's just that there's literally so much of this product that, like, there is, you know, maybe only 14% of the product has been pulled, if I'm going to be completely honest. Like, I don't think it's a conspiracy. I just think there is so much of this product that at the same time, it almost feels almost feels a little bit dishonest, if I'm going to be honest, with Topps. Like, it almost feels dishonest that Topps can promote this product, that it has this card in it, that only 14 to 15, 16, 17%. Let's say it's up to 20, because, you know, like I said, let's get a little bit of room here. 14 to 20% of this product has been open in however long this product cycle, but like the biggest cards that are supposed to be coming out of this product haven't been pulled yet. After years of really, like, it seems like some of the biggest cards get pulled right away. I'm not sure. I don't know. I saw this post. I definitely thought it was interesting. I definitely thought, I looked at the list and I said, well, none of the big players have been pulled from this list. So, like, that's a little bit weird. But at the same time, like, maybe, you know, maybe there is just so much of this product, and maybe Topps does do like distribution of this product, and they stagger the distribution, and maybe they haven't come out, maybe they haven't distributed all of the product. But like here's the last point I'll make, and I'll finish up the show. If Topps knows that these cards are in the product and they haven't distributed the packs with the cards in it, then that's a problem. If only whatever the percentage of the packs have been sent out, and they know that X amount of players or whatever are in the cards, you know, it's just like I just wish that, I don't know. It's just odd to me that these cards haven't come out. So we'll see. I mean, over the next few weeks, hopefully they do come out. We'll see, like I said. But, you know, only a certain amount of percentage of these big cards have been pulled out of the product. Hopefully, in the next few weeks, we do see some of the bigger cards get pulled out of Topps Chrome. Donruss Football is finally being released. Again, the release schedule really, there's nothing they can do about it, honestly, at this point. I think I was reading something that in late October, a judge or someone, like an arbiter, said that Panini could continue to make football cards, even though the NFLPA they terminated the license, but Panini still has the football license until 2026. So I mean, I guess that is obviously a good thing for Panini. They're going to have another couple years. This year for football is actually, I think, going to be potentially one of the rookie class is so good. But the other thing that I was reading an article, and they were listing out some of the exclusives that Fanatics has, and it's literally Will Levis, C.J. Stroud, and Bryce Young. Like, the top 3 quarterbacks from this draft class all have exclusives with Fanatics. So, like, I don't know, like, what... this is going to be probably one of the worst... I guess it's going to be one of the worst years for football cards, potentially... I mean, I guess it's hard to say of all time, maybe, but it's like the fact that you're not going to have basically one of the main reasons people get these, or want to buy these cards, are for the rookie quarterbacks, and you're not going to have autographs in those products because they have exclusives. Like, it's pretty crazy, like, that Fanatics, again, Fanatics I think they did a smart move here and signed these athletes, and really, in a way, like, they took away what would have been Panini's probably biggest asset this year. I mean, Victor Wembanyama, obviously, he's probably, he's going to be a big asset as well in basketball. But within football, those are the guys this year. And, like, it wouldn't surprise me if Fanatics came over the top and did that again next year, and then again the next year for these last couple of years, that Panini can make football cards, or they can make licensed football cards. Because I think, like, Wild Card, I'm pretty sure they have, they do have some Shroud, some CJ Shroud cards, or some autograph cards. And there were some rookie premier cards, I think, that I saw that did have the autographs of those players, but then that came out in like June. But like I said, they're not going to have any autographs in any of these products. That means there's going to be, I guess, presumably that means there's going to be no National Treasures RPAs for these players. Like, unless they're, I mean, yeah, I think so. I think that's probably what it means. There's going to be no Prism autographs. There's going to be no Donruss autographs. And like I said, like in the kind of the intro, I was saying that Donruss, I think, is actually one of my favorite base products. And I don't know what Panini is going to do to market the product if there's no autographs. I mean, I guess Donruss isn't really a product where you're looking for autographs. It's more just kind of like a fun base product. The design, they use it for, obviously, Optic, Donruss Optic, and then I think that they've done clearly Donruss the past few years, and it's one of the interesting strategies, in my opinion, that I think I wish actually they would use this strategy with other brands with other Panini-owned brands. Like, I think if they were to use the Optic and Donruss strategy with Prism, I actually think that they could make a really good new product. Like, if they wanted to basically create, because like what Donruss is, it's the paper version of Optic. And I think if they were to take Prism and they were to make a paper version of Prism, that would have been, in my opinion, I don't know. I don't even remember the first time I thought of this idea. Honestly, it was like a couple years ago I thought of this, and it really, I don't know. If I were working in product development for Panini, it's probably something I would have done, like expanding upon like the biggest brand and figuring out a way to use the biggest brand in other ways rather than just increasing the print run of Prism, which is what they did. And I really think it's actually pretty disappointing what they've done with some of these base products and just increase the print run so exponentially that it's like these cards are, the first few cards that sell on eBay, they're going to have some value, but realistically, they're almost worthless. Worthless just from comparing them to previous years. But like, there's just so many of these cards that it's like, it really diminishes the value significantly, and in a significant way that like they didn't have to do it that way, like, because the other problem with Prism Donruss not as much, if I'm going to be honest, because Donruss is a paper product, and if I were working on product development, I would just print as much of this, and this would be one of the flagship products, I think, for basketball and for football, in my opinion. I think, which they do print a lot of this, but like with Prism specifically, and this is more of just a little bit of a gripe I have with what they did over the past few years. They increased the amount of cards, but they didn't but then they increased the price of the cards too, like from a retail perspective. And I know that like Walmart and Target, they're the ones making the prices for what they're selling it for, but like, I don't think, Panini probably did a similar thing and raised their prices, which caused Walmart and Target to raise their prices, which you could go to any Walmart nowadays or any Target and you can find sports cards, which I think is actually a positive. So maybe you could say, well, that's good, but also like, they didn't make the price of the box worth what you're paying for it, which is one thing that and that was one thing that when the craze happened, when everyone was buying all these boxes at Target and Walmart's, like that was one of the reasons, was because you had value in the boxes. Like you had at least, I would say, the value of the box you could pull from cards in the box. Now it's like, if you're getting 10 to 15%, like if you sell these cards, like that's a win in my opinion in this kind of day and age of buying sports card boxes. Hobby box is a little bit different because you're getting autographs and stuff like that, but like blasters, they increase the price most places, like Targets and Walmarts, they at least increased it to $25. Some products are $30, $35. So, the development of these products, I think, was not well done, and with Donruss, it feels like they could have made this sort of a flagship product. Like, and I think in some circumstances it is. I think it's really all dependent on who's talking or who's looking at the product too. Like, because there are so many different base products, you could look at Donruss and say, well, that's the flagship product. Or you could look at, if we're looking at basketball hoops, maybe that could be considered the flagship product. There are tons of different options, I think, that you could technically, in my opinion, consider a flagship product. Donruss is definitely higher on my list. I think it's because it's an older brand, and that product is, it's coming out. I think it's going to be cool, but unfortunately, we are not going to have any autos of those top quarterbacks from this past year's draft.